Hello everybody and welcome back. I am Waylon the Indoor Farmer. This is episode 12. I'm trying a little something different. I'm going to explain the episode more than I do, in the title because it's starting to get too long and it's just kind of, it's too much. This is an episode to talk about a little bit about a lesson I learned with my 55-gallon system. It's my bigger system at home here, the one behind me. You'll see here a quick little video of just what I got going on right now. A little bit of lettuce right there. The neighbor boy's little wildflowers in those pots. That's a mustard seed back there. Some basil. This was a little while ago. The basil's actually looking pretty good now. It's probably another quarter-inch higher. It's not too bad. So yeah, some more mustard over here. I moved it around a little bit since this, but I just thought it was a good video to show you. Yeah, that spinach, man. That spinach was looking good, but it just died off on me. Now here you're seeing, yes, there's some fly paper there, but I don't know, for some reason these little bitty, I don't know if they're flies or gnats, but they're coming in around this the wildflower dirt that's in this thing. So anyway, this is helping. But you just saw me kind of using water in a squirt bottle that I get straight out of the fish water there. I'm using that on the plants up here because their roots aren't very long yet and they're not getting down into the water. But I did need the room, and these were all... See, okay, yeah, this is the basil here that I was telling you it's a little bit higher. I moved it back here because it's doing so well, and I just, I spray it with the fish water. This is me actually rearranging a bunch of this stuff because I have a little issue that I thought was a lot worse. I talked about it last episode. If you're just joining me, I mean, the last episode that I dealt with this system, which was three episodes ago, that would have been episode 9, I guess. So I thought I was going to have to tear this whole thing apart and rebuild some of it because the downspouts that return the water back down to the fish were at varying heights. I mean, they were all homemade, just cut pieces of PVC that I glued in, and I thought I had made a mistake on how high I glued them in. Not only that, but one of the three had a metal mesh over it instead of a crimped piece of metal mesh that would come more to a point. It was more flat, so it would just get covered by the pebbles and not actually be flowing very much, and so my water started to overflow. And I talked about this again the last episode, but the thing I was going to have to do is I thought I was going to have to empty all these rocks out around the downspouts just to get to the downspout and then cut them lower on the sides that were not flowing much. It was almost like all the water was coming out of just one downspout, which was the closest one to where the water comes in, which means that most of my nutrients were leaving. We're just going straight back to the fish. So I was racking my brain, and I was putting it off. I was procrastinating, and I was saying, oh man, that's going to be a big mess, and I'm going to have to shut the water off for a while. But it turns out that it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. You'll see through this video that as I'm meticulously sort of putting off the real work, which is taking apart the downspouts and maybe I was thinking I could just snip a little off the top, a little downspout circumcision, if you will, but I didn't end up having to do that. You'll see here towards the end of the video I show you what I'm talking about, but the other two spouts were just clogged with dust from the clay pebbles. So what had happened was I poured the clay pebbles into the trough after I had glued the downspouts in, and so that dust from the bag of fresh clay pebbles, or actually it's called Hydroton, that dust clogged up the metal mesh that was, covering the downspout so that the hydroton wouldn't fall back into the fish. So it ended up just being a little bit of a cleanup job, which was awesome because anytime I have to modify a homemade system that's just made out of donated materials, and I also bought a bunch of stuff, little adapters for the PVC and all the materials to get this thing put together, but it's sort of a mismatch of materials. So anytime you take something like that apart or have to modify it, it can be a worse nightmare. So yeah, here I'm finally getting to the digging, and I'm like thinking, I'm looking, and I thought of all sorts of things before this of what I could do. Maybe grab a Tupperware container and cut a hole in it so that I could separate the rocks away. But no, all I had to do was kind of pull the metal mesh up off of the downspout a little bit, not all the way off because it's zip tied on, and that would be difficult to get back on, and just another zip tie, I guess, but that would still be tough because the rocks keep wanting to come in on you. So this is me realizing that all I had to do was lift it up, because you can see that I cleared it away enough that I could tell the water level was fine. I initially thought these two downspouts were too tall. I thought that by the time the water gets up to those levels, it's already too high, but that was not the case. So once I cleaned that out, just like you just saw me, then I decided to take away the basket that was sort of keeping that front downspout clear, because without it, I thought I was getting an overflow or a flood. And yeah, I'm realizing that I did not have to do nearly as much as I thought. So now I have to rearrange everything so I can get to that farthest away downspout. But that's really the key one, because I want that water to sort of travel all the way through the trough. And I did realize a design flaw in this was that the water doesn't come from underneath the trough, it's coming in over top of the trough, which means that there is water in here that's not going to leave, that's not going to raise itself up enough to get into the downspout. So the underneath the downspouts is water that's just there, but it's pretty dense with hydroton. But I just thought of that. I'm thinking, well, I want some flow, and I want the nitrates and nitrates to get all the way through the trough. I keep calling it a trough, grow bed, whatever you call it. But yeah, you idiot, figured it out, didn't you? Look at him. Look at that idiot. Anyway, so yeah, I want the nitrates and nitrates to travel all the way through. So now, towards the end of this, you'll see that it's got a lot more flow. Yeah, touching flypaper is never fun. Just FYI. If you touch it, then you have to wash for 10 minutes with something that gets sticky stuff off. Not good. Not good. Yeah, you can see these little, they're not really like house flies or some kind of gnats. They're not fruit flies, because I have a fruit fly trap there that nothing bothers. And I don't really have any fruit, it's just, leafy greens. So, yeah. Anyway, this is a good experimental starter setup. I really appreciate the ups and downs it's given me, because not only am I just buying a store-bought, cookie cutter setup like you see in the back there with my 10-gallon setup, it takes very little maintenance because it just does its thing. It's a different setup because it's taking a lot less nutrients to just do some lettuce, and so I'm trying to expand on that knowledge. But it's also good to see those little failures, or little what you think might be failures in the design flaw, and then to what do you call it, adjust fire and move on, and adapt and figure out what a good workaround would be. And I'm all about getting a workaround, at least temporarily, until you can come up with something better, get better equipment, better materials, whatever it is. You can still try and do something temporarily most times in order to, keep the operations moving. So, I'm probably going to end up being more like a pack rat at some point, holding on to lots of extra materials, but you never know when stuff like that comes in handy. So I think I'll have to learn how to store materials. I mean, dry temperatures, make sure no moisture and a lot of, like, especially wood and other things, in order to keep a lot of those materials longer, and especially if they're donated materials and things that maybe already had a shelf life beforehand, that maybe aren't treated wood, and that's another thing is treating these materials not only for weather resistance, but to not damage the fish or the plants. I mean, that's the point. This is all edible. This is supposed to be a system that things come out of it that you eat. So the system has to be clean for you too, and also hold up to the test of time and the flow of non-stop water. I mean, you see what water does to rivers and the meandering that it causes. We'll say meandering. Yeah, so initially I really thought that the stuff towards the end of the grow bed was not getting a lot of nutrients, so I kept moving things around and trying to sort of give each thing a little bit of the good stuff towards the beginning there. But the flow is a heck of a lot better now. It's a night and day difference. It's perfect. You don't have to do anything else to it. I might have to, check on if it's clogged up every now and then, but you'll have that. Speaking of which, I found out that I had a little water pump that I started my little 10-gallon setup with that I thought had gone out or stopped working, and in the middle of the night I had to exchange it because I happened to have another one. And anyway, long story short is I opened it up and cleaned it out, and I think it might work still. So it's going to go towards the new aquarium that I got. Not new, but it's donated from a neighbor. So I don't know when I'll get that put together, but the biggest thing that I'm trying to do is move and find my own house and build my own space and have room to grow and put in permanent fixtures that I don't have to worry about it not being my house. So I mean, there's a lot of reasons I like to move out of this house anyway, but that's besides the point. I want to have my own room, my own space, get this thing off the ground and fully realized, I should say. But I am in the process of that. I've looked at a few houses, and I think I might have a couple of really good ones that I like. So if you've ever bought a house out there, you'll know it is not fun. It's a lot of work, and yes, it's first world problems, I guess, in order to really realize my dreams. But I can't wait. So once I do that, I'm going to really drive forward with all sorts of projects, and you're going to see me experimenting and maybe more failure, more success. We'll see. The best thing about having my own space is that I can build upon my failures and leave this old contraption and maybe do something with it later, and kind of come back to things that I can reevaluate. Plan to try to build a big enough system that I can even work hydroelectricity into it, which I know it's a lofty goal, but I know it's possible. We already use hydroelectricity in natural bodies of water that that have to be clean enough for people to be around. So, to do that indoors, I don't see why not. It's going to be a lofty project and maybe some failure, but I'd like to work in human power into this. Maybe get a bicycle involved in the system and you know, even to just to supplement some of the power usage and to supplement some of the or actually to eventually gain on maybe sort of a battery type of situation, especially on in stormy days and when if I don't have enough backup. But I also need to buy some battery backups and to get some generators, and I want to do all of that. I'm gonna sort of hit it from every angle, as it were. Yeah, now I think I was done with that, with the fix, and I'm just sort of taking care of things and trying to get them. That little guy there that I'm playing with right now, it was a stray seed that had started to sprout. It was kind of off in the rocks here, and I section. Yeah, so just some close-ups. So far I haven't had any issues with the moss or, you know, algae growing. There's a little close-up of those flowers. They're not doing anything flowery yet, but yeah, there's a singular mustard right there. It's getting pretty big by itself. I think those smaller ones are getting okay. So you see that there's black plastic here. That was just a workaround I made because something was still leaking in just such a subtle way that it would come out and touch and roll down the side of the downspout here, and it would just start to touch the wood enough that it would seep onto this piece of wood and actually start to saturate it. You know, it wasn't the worst problem, but it wasn't leaking under the floor or anything like that. But I did find a pretty easy workaround, and that's going to be permanent. There's no reason to take that apart to fix it. But now look at the amount of water coming out of each one of these. It's almost even now. I mean, at least out of the first and the last one, which is the most important. The center one has a better flow too than it did, but not necessarily the same. Yeah, there's some new basil. Oh, okay, yeah, here. You see the metal mesh on this is sort of crimped at the top, and what I did was I took some extra material of the mesh and I used that to cover the first downspout, which makes it flat and more of a suction going on there, where all of the rocks are sort of sucking right up to it and flattening and covering the whole opening. So I'm surprised that now I don't have to do anything with it, and the flow looks fine. And then now you can see how it's sticking up a little bit more because I pulled it up and out of the water. Yeah, that's about the end of the video. You can see how it's still a little clogged here and there, but for the most part I lifted it up enough that this is nice and clear now. I mean, it's night and day difference. It's so smooth. Yeah, that's gonna be the end of the video today. You know, I got a lot of big things coming, guys. You know, not a lot of content just yet. I'm not trying to just go all out inside this house that I'm renting, so I'd like to move out, but I'm also going to start with some new projects that I can even do here. I'm going to start growing marijuana. I know a lot of people have asked me, is if, you know, from the beginning, is that what I'm growing? And I said, no, I'm just going to grow food. And but I am going to get started. I'm going to have a friend that knows about it, and he's been doing it for years, and he's excited to get me started, and I'm going to start showing people on the show and maybe some of my other social media sites and putting up pictures, because I think, you know, it'll bring a little more excitement to the show. But as always, I am on rumble.com and locals.com, as well as youtube.com. I appreciate your watch, and give me a like, share, and subscribe. Hey, give me some criticism. Give me some feedback. I'm down for all of it. Until next time, thank you.